Hey Calvary, this is Pastor Brian and Pastor Zach, and we are back from our trip to Uganda. It was an amazing time. I knew the Lord wanted us to go to Uganda because honestly, nothing about traveling to Africa in August appealed to me. So I knew it had to be the hand of God. He confirmed it through several people. So I went with great expectations, and we saw the Lord do some incredible things.
Pastor Brian and myself were invited to Uganda by a man named Arthur Magezi and his ministry, CTM, or Christ Transformation Ministries. And their goal was really for us to go down there and to see the work that was going on in the churches in Uganda. On our first day there, we actually got to go into some of these rural villages and be a part of some Sunday services. We got to teach a couple messages and really get our feet on the ground and see what God is doing in rural Uganda.
And we accept you as our Savior.
We
put our trust in you. We spent the next couple of days encouraging the pastors of those village churches at a pastors' conference. We had about 100 pastors and church leaders there, and we spent 2 days solid talking to them about the Lord, encouraging them in the Word, and finding out what kind of spiritual issues their congregants are dealing with in Uganda.
And while Pastor Brian and myself were hosting and running that pastors' conference, Nathan Walters and Brad Nassif of Calvary Phoenix were out in the villages with the medical teams, the evangelism team, and the Jesus Film team, ministering to the people and the churches of those rural villages.
After the pastors' conference, we then went on a road trip. We crossed the Nile River on a ferry, had a latte on the equator. That was pretty cool. But the purpose of the trip wasn't just to see the sights, although we saw some incredible things. The real purpose was to encourage the pastors in southwestern Uganda with the gospel and just some good spiritual encouragement.
Down in southern Uganda, we visited 3 main urban centers. One was called Rukungiri, another one was Rubare, and the last one was Kisoro. In each one of those places, Pastor Brian, myself, CTM, and with the help of Nathan and Brad, we hosted mini pastors' conferences to encourage the pastors from the surrounding rural areas. By the end of our trip, as we were headed back up to Kampala, we were exhausted. The result of what God had done, we got some cool numbers. 2,171 people that were treated by the medical teams. This is anything from major wound care to just giving antibiotics for chronic illnesses that the people had in these villages. 1,194 people that were evangelized to. We had teams going out and sharing about the gospel and Jesus with these people who may not have ever heard of him. There was also a Jesus Film team that would go out every single night with a big screen, a projector, and the Jesus Film in their native language. And over all of the nights, they showed it to over 950 people, even though 2 of the nights got rained out. In Uganda, we saw 417 decisions made for Jesus Christ. And that gave us so much joy. And we know without a shadow of a doubt that there is revival going on in Uganda.
Our trip was really a fact-finding mission. Arthur Magezi asked us to come over and help him strategize how we can train pastors for these brand new churches. There's a lot more work to be done. Jesus is active in Uganda. Calvary is not finished with its ministry over there. We would ask you now to pray for Arthur and Christ Transformation Ministries in Uganda and pray about the next steps that Jesus is leading us to take in this effort to train pastors in Uganda.
And once again, we want to thank you for all of your prayers and your support while we were over there. I really did feel a cushion of protection while I was in Uganda. No one on the team got sick. We had no issues whatsoever. So thank you so much for your prayers and for your support.